why tech policy?
These are the skill sets which are valued not just in the UN or World Bank, but these are the skill sets that are used even in the policy roles at Twitter or policy roles at Facebook, Meta. I tend to receive so many innumerable messages. Naman, how can I get into the UN, in World Bank or IMF or ADB? And I can give you in writing, if you were to pursue a public policy degree from any Indian business school or Indian policy school, or be it in Sri Lanka or in any South Asia, you will not get into those professions.
You and I have both done our masters, right? At the same time, we are saying that degrees might have a sheepskin effect. I am in initial talks with collaboration with OpenAI. Question your value system. What kind of values do you want to have in your life? What kind of values do you want your people around you to also have as well? Because they are going to be heavily influencing your character, your spirit, your integrity as well. Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. We are very excited to do this conversation on a contemporary and a much needed topic of tech policy. If you are new to our channel, then certainly feel free to subscribe. If you are looking to learn more about careers, about Plan B for UPSC, about MBA, or topics such as tech policy and now management consulting. With me is Naman Srivastav. In the past, we have collaborated professionally to do such meaningful and good, healthy discussions and debates as well. And I'm personally very excited to do this pod with him today. And of course, feel free to stay till the end of this pod to know about new exciting ventures that we are starting within GGI and many other details around that. At the outset, Naman, welcome once again on our channel. So over to you. What do you have to say as we start this interesting conversation?
Okay, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on your channel. And hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. The one thing that I want to focus on as and when we discuss through this very interesting topic is that let's be unfiltered. Of course, there will be biases, basis our experiences, the way we grew up, or the industries, organizations that we have worked with. But I think it's extremely important that young India and folks from across the globe, they get access to unfiltered knowledge, unfiltered information, and unfiltered discussions. So we'll try to be as unbiased as possible. Of course, biases can happen, and feel free to point those out as and when you go through this very important discussion. So this is one thing that I'm promising myself, that whosoever is watching this end to end, this is going to be by far the only discussion that you should watch if you were to build a career in any organization across public policy or international affairs. That's what I want to begin with, and that's one thing I would want to promise myself as we talk about this very interesting field. Also, one small request, feel free to ask questions, nudge me and put me in an uncomfortable situation if needed, so that people get to hear the most unfiltered and raw versions of what we have to speak about these industries.
Beautifully said, Naman. And for those of you who might know Naman and my journey, you might anticipate that the conversations like these might be artificial or maybe fabricated. Please know that the questions or the discussions that Naman and I are going to have in front of camera have not been scripted as such, and even professionally as co-founders of Global Governance Initiative and GTI, we are known to have a lot of these healthy discussions and debates, and this time we are just putting a camera in front of ourselves so that you all can witness and see this. So today we are going to be talking and discussing, Naman, about a very interesting topic, which is of tech policy. You and I have been talking very briefly about it, and today we will decide to go in depth of that topic, and that too in front of the camera. You are going to share your views, I am going to critique them, maybe I am going to concur with you and share my viewpoint as well. And that is how this entire discussion and debate will go as we move ahead in this pod as well. Naman, why tech policy? That's the most important question, right? There are so many degrees that people are doing. Even as GGI co-founders, we are doing alternative to international MBA, alternative to international MPP as well. So why tech policy is my number one question to you, and then I'll share my stance over it.
Of course. First and foremost, and of course people will again hate me for saying this, but I truly believe that we have moved in an age where degrees are losing their relevance. If you're pursuing degrees for that sheepskin effect of just showcasing your paper degree, then perhaps you can stop watching this video. This has to be said out loud because people are splurging lakhs and crores of rupees just for those paper certifications. So I want to say this out loud again, that please don't watch it if you are really concerned, worried, and want to just pursue those paper degrees. We have to focus on skill sets, and that is how you grow and thrive in this journey of professional world. Now, why tech policy? Very simple answer. The reason is that I tend to receive so many innumerable messages on my Instagram, on my LinkedIn, on my YouTube comments. Naman, how can I get into the UN? Or how can I work in World Bank or IMF or ADB or XYZ organizations? And I can give you in writing, if you were to pursue a public policy degree from any Indian business school or Indian policy school, or be it in Sri Lanka or in any South Asia, you will not get into those professions. And it is saddening. When people put in so much amount of money for such degrees, they are not just investing their money, they're investing their time and emotions. And if they're not getting those required skill sets, you will not get into those professions. It is for this reason why we want to launch tech policy. And there's a reason to it. In Indian policy school and Indian ecosystem, look at the curriculum. Look at the kind of professors who are teaching these aspects. An IAS officer, retired, takes up a session, does a podcast somewhere else. And what are they teaching? They're teaching how to frame policies. But put your hand on your heart. Is this why you will be hired to work at an early stage in the UN or World Bank? Policy formulation, at least in Indian context and South Asian context, is a prerogative of a legislature. It's a prerogative of folks who are above the rank of JS in the civil services. At least they form skeletons of the policy. A 20-year-old, an early mid-career professional will not be formulating policies. And therefore, you need to think beyond why certain skill sets are needed to thrive in those specific world of the UN, World Bank, so on and so forth. So to have a one-way path to forge a successful career in these organizations and beyond, we're launching this program. That's the reason why tech policy, and we can then delve into the aspects of curriculum hereafter. Your thoughts?
Naman, I think that's a brilliantly articulated answer. And while I have a stance over this question of why tech policy, I also want to double click on something. You and I have both done our masters, right? At the same time, we are saying that degrees might have a sheepskin effect. I have a view on it, and I would actually want to challenge you on that as well, right? I think just to add upon Naman's view on why degrees may not matter, given the fact that I have done my MBA with Howard Exchange, Naman, you have been at a premium school like Fletcher yourself, is that when we say that degrees have a sheepskin effect, we mean two things. At least I particularly would want to say that do not do a degree for the heck of doing a degree, right? Which means that there are good schools, but then there are schools which are actually minting money on the expense of just degree or on the expense of just campus. When we say that there is a sheepskin effect of a degree, please make sure that you understand we are not maybe necessarily talking about our degrees, because we have done a degree ourselves, and we want to make sure that we are as fair and as unbiased as Naman you were saying that this pod needs to be. That's one. Second, we are sitting in extremely different times. In fact, I would say that maybe the last pod that Naman you and I did almost goes 1 year ago, right? And so much has changed in the world of technology, so much has changed in the world of skills, that I personally know of people from premium business schools who are finding it relatively hard to even get a good job for themselves. Not any job, but a good job. And that is where maybe what we mean when we say that degrees may have a sheepskin effect. You need to go beyond the degrees. You need to really push yourselves, because in today's scenario, maybe a HPS on your certificate or maybe an HPS on your resume might not be sufficient, maybe just necessary overall. So Naman, I want to know your views before I give my stance on tech policy. What do you mean by sheepskin? You have done a degree yourself.
I think in one of my videos, there was a comment that many policy schools in India have turned into B.Ed colleges. And rightfully, just go through the websites of these policy schools, go through the websites of these new-age business schools. Just look, the kind of employers, the kind of jobs that these people are getting in. Splurging 15-16 lakh rupees for a degree and getting in a research position, and that to a secondary research position, that's not what you aspire to be. Right? And you will be getting those positions. Why? Because you have not yourself focused on skill sets. At the end of the day, think logically. Why would anyone pay you money? Two reasons. Number one, you add value in their life, be it in terms of capital, in terms of money or returns or whatever. Secondly, you bring down the time for whatever they do stuff. If you can't do those two things, why would anyone pay you money? Any organization. And therefore, when I say that degrees are irrelevant, I intend to again highlight skills are the most important asset, and does not matter, and thankfully so, the capitalist world that we live in, you're valued for the skills that you bring in, the values that you add, not for the paper degrees. Secondly, and I have said this multiple times, I do have respect for universities such as Stanford, Harvard, Wharton, but I do not have respect for the ridiculous B.Ed colleges and colleges such as these getting propped up in India. So if you are a GGI-in, and if you are a misfit, or if you've been associated with our journey, I urge you, apply to Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, and you have all my support. But if you're applying for a random university in Australia or Ireland, and even in Gurgaon, in the name of 2 flats, don't do that. It's ridiculous. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your parents' efforts. So degrees, it's debatable in terms of from where are you getting those degrees. That's my unbiased opinion. This is the advice I'll give to my kids or perhaps my younger sibling. So this is the advice I'll give to the people who are watching this podcast, because I can't lie to them. Why would I lie to these people?
Fair enough. And I really like your point on focusing on skills and focusing on the right degree. Shall you still want to do a degree as well? My view on tech policy completely concur with yours, and you and I know that I've been spending substantial amount of time researching and working in artificial intelligence before artificial intelligence became the thing with the advent of ChatGPT. I'm someone who very purposefully thinks that it's not government's business to get into business. And if we were to break down the term of tech and policy, we are talking about policy interventions in the world of technology, right? But I am also someone who has been researching and who also understands the challenges with infinite research that goes into, let's say, artificial intelligence. And you and I have been discussing, it is one of the few things, if there will not be regulation, this could become like nuclear weapon. If it goes in the hands of the bad players such as terrorists, then there could come a time that machines over a period of time will become super intelligent than humans, and then machines could then start dictating the fate of humans, maybe annihilate us as well. And that's why topics such as nuclear weapons, if they are intervened through public policy interventions, technology topics such as the artificial intelligence need to be intervened as well. Now, as someone who has worked in Government of India, who's worked in international affairs as well, I have myself personally seen getting challenged in multiple occasions where I didn't know the technological interventions, right? Which means that today public policy is getting formulated, is getting intervened, is getting implemented from the lens of technology. We are going and reaching moon, but that also means that there are implications of it. There are certain technological advancements that we have made that we need to actually critique and we need to actually implement from the lens of public policy. Similarly, you and I were also discussing about DPI, Digital Public Infrastructure. In fact, India did a fantastic job in G20 by taking a leadership on DPI as well. Be it Aadhaar, be it your UPI, we need technological public policy interventions in all of these areas. That means that overall, whatever I'm trying to talk about, be it DPI, be it India landing on moon, be it the AI intervention as well, if you wish to become a public policy enthusiast, if you wish to become a public policy analyst, associate, consultant, partner, you cannot survive, not even thrive, you cannot survive this field without knowing the technological industries or the technological interventions. And that is why we are extremely passionate about doing tech policy through the lens of GGI, and there are extremely few people. This is almost like saying, let's do MPP almost 30-40 years ago. How many people were teaching MPP 30-40 years ago? Barely, right? Now it's become the thing. That's why people are trying to ride upon that wave. But today, the person who actually learns at the intersection of public policy and technology is going to be the one who is going to be having the skills, Naman, like you said, which are needed in today's day and age. So that's my answer. Happy to be question, critique before we move towards the next questions.
Of course. See, first and foremost, very well said. Secondly, I would want my editor to put in a screenshot of the syllabus of whatever the tech policy is. And as you browse through, as the viewers browse through this curriculum, you can see, you can make a sense what all is covered here. We're covering aspects of impact investing. We're covering aspects of international affairs. And at the same time, we're covering aspects of computer science for CEOs. At the end of the day, it does not matter who you are and where are you from, to quote Backstreet Boys. No, but it does not matter whether you're an investor based in Silicon Valley or are you a politician. You have to have the foresight to think beyond just the first order or second order. You have to think beyond that. Only when you can do that, you will make better returns for your investors, you will make better returns for yourself. And that is what Warren Buffett gets so much money for. That's why consultants get paid so much money for. That's why certain politicians go on to become prime ministers, because they have the foresight to see what all is going to happen. And to ensure that you can make certain levels of conjectures, you need to focus on analyzing data as well, at least in the early stages of your career. You need to scrape through the crap and figure out what's relevant, what's not relevant. And therefore, we have specific modules on data analysis. You have to learn certain aspects of econometrics if you have to make better conjectures about what's going to ride and what's not going to ride. So therefore, the entire curriculum is holistic, and that is the way it should be. These are the skill sets which are valued not just in the UN or World Bank, but these are the skill sets that are used, and fairly enough, even in the policy roles at Twitter or policy roles at Facebook, Meta, Or I think I was reading through a newspaper and I stumbled upon an advertisement by Amazon that they are looking to hire someone for tech policy roles at Amazon.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's very important to learn things at the intersection. And these intersections would be the world of business, the world of public policy, the world of technology. And all of those things should combine, especially when you're so young in your age. When you're beyond 40s or 50s, that case, it's fine. But here at this age, you have to learn various aspects. And does not matter whether you have a background in engineering or not, you have to learn the art of technology. Only then you can safely make better decisions involving the world of technology and public policy and finance and ethics, so on and so forth.
Beautifully said. And just to touch upon the 6 months program of tech policy, maybe I would just take the luxury of segmenting it into 3 pillars. One is going to be about learning, which Naman beautifully articulated, and the second is going to be about the power of community, and the third is going to be the power of employment opportunities, the lack of which, because of which we say that don't just sign up for any Tom, Dick and Harry public policy program. I'll just add a little bit over and above, Naman, what you said for the curriculum. The entire learning angle of the 3 pillars is going to be further subdivided into 3 sub-pillars. So we are talking about 1A, 1B and 1C. Naman was talking about the master classes that you will go through at the intersection of public policy and at the intersection of tech. And let's say within tech, you do not know coding, right? But can you survive in the market? The answer is no. You can afford to be a low code person, but you need to be, it's almost speaking or talking about English. You may not be able to speak in English, but can you read newspaper? That's how coding is. Maybe you cannot code, but can you look at a screen and can you talk to a product manager in government and can you understand that code, right? Similarly, we will be teaching them machine learning. We will be teaching you artificial intelligence, intertwined with public policy, intertwined with extremism problem, intertwined with women issues, intertwined with climate impact problems. That's 1A for all of you. Then the 1B part is going to be Schrodinger, which is where students are going to be able to focus at your own time, the employability aspect of it. I know of a lot of schools in India who may be able to teach you theory, but then they are not able to teach you the case mindset or the problem solving mindset. We have an in-house proprietary tool called Schrodinger, where at your own time, without being dependent upon a person, you are going to be able to solve public policy and tech problems to be able to crack interviews. And then there is a third aspect whereby you are going to be solving projects with a buddy within the tech policy ecosystem. So that's your learning aspect. In fact, there are many more aspects that we might not be able to touch upon, and that's why there is going to be a separate link for the curriculum. Then the second aspect that we are talking about is going to be community. Harvard, Stanford, ISB, Fletcher and many other top programs are what they are because of the community, right? People are going to be vouching for you. People are going to be standing next to you when they actually refer you. And that's why, not just from career point of view, Naman and I have always focused very strongly upon the mental health component, right? And a lot of fellows, in fact, till date, write to me that even though they have graduated from GGI, they miss the mental health sessions. And that is going to be a very strong pillar for tech policy in their community angle as well, because another reality, societies are becoming lonelier and lonelier with each passing week and each passing months. And the last but not the least is, apart from the curriculum, beyond the community, we are going to be helping them with the employment aspect. We just do not want to leave you hanging. While there is a culture of day 0 and day 1 in India, I'm not a huge fan of it. And that's why we always advocate people to learn the skills to be able to find your second and third job after GGI. We will be helping you with an employment ecosystem with the OCS, which is Office of Career Services ecosystem at GGI. So I wanted to touch that upon as well. With that, Naman, I have a question to you, which is that why GGI? Maybe these folks who are going to watch this can their own time learn coding from YouTube, can learn something about public policy from YouTube, can separately learn about climate impact from YouTube. Why should they sign up for tech policy program at GGI?
I think it's a good question. But before I talk about that, I also want to again highlight on one aspect, and that is the point that you made around employment. Day 0, day 1, displacement culture. Of course, just think about this. If you have varied skill sets, if you're incredible with economics, public policy, you're incredible with corporate finance, fundamentals of coding, AI, there is no power on earth why you will not getting jobs on your own. Why wouldn't that be the case? This placement culture is such a problematic issue. Just think about a prime minister. Let's assume that Modi ji, if he were to say that I'll become Prime Minister only when there is an advertisement, or if only BJP will ask me to do it, you have to learn how to get things that you want, and for that you need to have certain skill sets. So I am doubling down on skill sets, and this will happen via GGI. I don't want to speak about other institutions, other organizations, but the fact of the matter is that in other organizations, institutions, just look at the curriculum again. That's the foundations, right? Fundamental basic courses in economics, just basics of public policy, and that is done. That's not how you should prepare for it. Of course, at GGI, you will number one be trained in terms of skill sets, no doubt about that. I'm putting my neck on line for that. Second thing, the power of community. Yesterday, I think a couple of days ago, I stumbled upon a Twitter post where it was mentioned that students from IIM Calcutta, or some IIM, Lucknow. IIM Lucknow, they're circulating WhatsApp messages in the alumni group that the entire batch is not getting placed. Of course, this will happen. People will get placed, and I hope they get placed. It's a big investment, but they will get placed. Why? Because here the entire alumni is coming together. Yeah. Same thing is the incredible achievement that we have achieved in the past few years. We've built in such incredible, remarkable collaborations, partnerships with so many organizations in our network. GGI also has a vast alumni network, not just based in India but across the globe. And the best part is that all this alumni network is diverse. Some are working in World Bank like Manya, some are working with PCG, like so many of our fellows. Pirana Mitra, Laboni worked with Bridgespan. So the entire alumni network comes together. And this will happen because now GGI has an established entity, been here for 5-6 years. So number one, skill sets. Number two, the community network that we have. And number three, of course, the foundation which GGI has built. And let me tell about this very briefly. The unique thing about GGI is that it is not funded. And that's a unique thing. Yeah. I know many of the websites, many of our peers will flaunt about the funding that they have received. They will talk about these are our investors. These are the folks that have backed us up. But just again, think about this. If you have raised funding in every board meeting, you are incredibly stressed that you have to now show numbers, your sales growth, your targets. We don't give a damn about that. We don't care about sales. Doesn't work. We don't pay a single rupee to any of the YouTubers. Why the hell should they talk about other programs at GGI? And here, our entire focus is on the right parameters. Until and unless we do not solve for quality, nothing will get resolved. We are not solving for quantity. We don't give a damn about sales numbers because we don't have investors. We're not working under pressure of our investors. The only people we are accountable to are our base of those who are our existing users. Yeah. That is our North Star. That is our matrix. So this single-minded focus that we have over GGI, that is our unique value proposition. And we do not collaborate with any YouTubers, and you will not see any promoted advertisement of any of the GGI courses or programs. And you can say and you can note it down for many of our peers. So that's what would be my answer. Off to you.
Sure. I have two reactions to that, and I'll give a reaction on the placement mindset and culture as well, because students need to understand why the so-called IIM culture may not be in their best interest for a long-term horizon. And most of the people are unfortunately short-term oriented, and that's why they sign up for these placement culture and placement mindset. And then of course I'll talk about what's my answer on why GGI, right, for tech policy. Two things. Number one, we need to understand that there are still IIM folks and ISP folks who are coming and joining GGI. As a founder, I should be celebrating it, but it is really disturbing trend in India because they get their first job from IIMs and ISPs, but then many a times during their curriculum, they do not focus on the skills, because of which they actually are not able to get their second and third job. If you go to Harvard and Stanford, there is no day one, day zero culture, and that's why I think few times they're a little more advantaged over the long term than the short term, is because there is a culture of fear, or there is a culture of employers coming in, having a networking sessions with the students of HBS, Wharton, and then giving a job, which is a much more skilled and which is a much more function of a community-based ecosystem. GGI has always been focused on the latter, which is that you should never be able to have a problem to find your second job or your third job, unlike a lot of folks in India who just focus on their placement mindset, and after actually getting plateaued or after actually not getting the growth that they could from their first employer, then they struggle with respect to the skills. And that's why we are saying that while we have employment partnership, we are not really advocates of placement culture and placement mindset. That's one. Second, on why GGI, I think two-part answer to that, Naman. Number one is I completely concur to the fact that we are not funded. With funding, many a times there comes agenda driven as well. We are not funded by a political party, we are not funded by corporate ventures as well. That means that the innovation that takes place in our curriculum, that means that the teachings that take place at GGI are not actually agenda driven. When it comes to tech policy, you can do your research. India is not having any program in the world of tech policy. There are 1 to 2 ventures in US as well, but to my mind, without taking the names, they're actually agenda driven because they are funded by well established corporate houses as well. The problem is when you study such programs at a well funded organization or by a well funded organization, you're going to learn things that are going to serve their interest really well. That means that you are going to learn biased information. When you go out in the market, you are going to serve their interest. You are not going to serve your interest. That's point number 1. Point number 2, we have always taken pride in the fact that we are going to be practitioner led. We are practitioner led. We have more than 150 CEOs, CTOs, leading OSDs in the government who have come and taught at GGI. So even the tech policy program, the master classes that you see in climate impact investing are going to be taught by leading venture capitalists in impact investing. In fact, Mentera Venture, for example, has been kindly supportive of GJ, and we have been reciprocative of their good work in India in the impact investing. Similarly, you're going to be learning ethical artificial intelligence as well. I am in initial talks with collaboration with OpenAI through GTI, which is our tech venture, and for our tech policy program. So those are the 2 reasons, to my view, why you should sign up for GGI tech policy program. Shall you be convinced on the tech policy story, right? With that, I ask you a little difficult question. Now, someone is on the website, they see a lot of program. They see GJ MBA, MBA being the so-called hot property, right, in the market. Why should they sign up for GGI tech policy, not a GJ MBA? And who is going to be eligible for this program? Those are my 2 questions, and then I'll say my answer, what's on my mind.
Okay, good. So I think whatever you said makes a lot of sense. And I also want to highlight very briefly on a very interesting thing that you mentioned, that who will teach. And again, here, the aspect of not raising any funds come to RSQ, because here we don't care about numbers. And therefore, not a single instructor will be a YouTuber. It is a travesty that in all the business schools, in many of the policy schools, YouTubers are invited to speak about things. Influencers are driving the discussions. They're teaching about how to grow YouTube. What is this? Why are you paying lakhs of rupees to learn this nonsense? And there is a reason why that happens. The reason why that happens is because here in this case, a business school, they get free publicity because that YouTuber will then upload a clip. They get to know about this new school in town, and that's how the entire circular loop will continue. And therefore, I will not be collaborating with the social media influencers. If you are any of the social media influencers, I'm so sorry. But I think it's wrong. It's unethical. So that won't happen. Now the question is, how is tech policy different from the MBA? I think in this context, it entirely depends upon the outcomes that you want to achieve. If you are very clear that you want to work in the domain of policy, then tech policy without a blink of an eye should be your answer, because it's perhaps the best in this domain. Here you're linking the world of technology with business, with policy, so on and so forth, and that's the outcome, and all the instructions, all the guidance will be along that outcome. If you are very clear in your mind that you don't align with the world of public policy and you're more tilted towards the world of business, you are more keen to join the world of private equity or venture capital or impact investing or McKinsey's and BCG's of the world, then perhaps GJ MBA will make a lot of sense, because right from the kind of cases that they will ask you in your interviews to the kind of work that you will do in, let's say, BCG and McKinsey's, the curriculum will be in line with what is expected in the world of business. So take a decision basis the outcome in mind. Having said this, selection is little on the thinner lines. I think 5 to 6% is what it hovers around. For the last fiscal year, that was the case. I don't know about the numbers for the tech policy, but after you, same question.
Sure. I completely concur with your view on not having YouTubers teach while at GGI. So we need to all understand while we are doing this on YouTube has garnered really good, highly monthly active users and is getting competition from TikTok. YouTube is just a mini subset of the larger gambit of business problems that you should learn at a business school. And with that, I am going to be helping you with an answer on what's my view on GJ MBA versus GJ tech policy. Completely hands down aligned with your view. I'll take this example from BCG. At BCG, I have worked on consumer goods problem, on edtech problems, on technology problems. At the same time, I have worked in BCG on Ministry of Shipping problem with Government of India problem as well. I was really lucky and I was very clear that I wanted to work at the intersection of both. If you're clear that you want to work in public policy, you want to work in government problems, you want to work in social impact sector, and you want to apply the cutting edge technology to be able to advance the cause of governments, then GGI tech policy will be for you. However, if you're very clear that you want to work in private sector and you want to serve the cause of, let's say, Walmarts of the world to, let's say, the Teslas of the world, not in a tech policy role but in a generalist role, let's say of strategy or of operations or of marketing, then GJ MBA is for you. And then to answer your question, who is eligible for it? We have a hard eligibility on age, and I'm a huge fan of what the government of India has done with the coaching sector as well, which is that you need to be above the age of 18 and you need to be below the age of 34 for you to be becoming eligible with it. However, the eligibility does not guarantee a selection, which is where Naman is talking about, that we have a selection rate of 5 to 6%. Why? Because we do not want to take anyone who will not be able to cope up with the space of the program. Then it's not just your failure, then it's our failure as well. We go with a very fast pace. There is data analytics happening. A lot of leaders, for example, the APAC CEO of BCG recently was teaching at GGI, Alpesh Shah. In the same breath, the artificial intelligence leader of a leading organization has been teaching at GGI. So you need to be above the age of 18 and below the age of 34. You may ask me, Shatakshi, why? Above the age of 18, because we want you to enjoy your childhood and not get caught up into the rat race of careers. So enjoy it while it lasts. A lot of people in school write to me, when can I join GGI? And I tell them, please enjoy your age, whatever is left for you. And why below the age of 34? We are actually signing up for a mission that young professionals actually start taking a seat on the table in business roles, in tech policy role and in technology role, and that's why below the age of 34. You may ask, Shatakshi, how can I enhance my chances of selection? There is going to be an application form. Each and every question on that form will have a weightage. Right from your LinkedIn profile to your essay on why do you deserve a seat in tech public policy. So please make sure that you put in a very good, full-hearted attempt at the application, because my team is going to be spending a lot of time reading each and every word of your application. And I really hope as many of you as possible are invited to the program. But I really urge you to not waste your time, not waste your money in just putting a random application, because I can give this to you casually, you're not going to be selected. But if you put a good, decent attempt or a commitment to the application, there's a very high chances you will be selected into the program.
Will this be in person? Would we get a flat and we'll have those sessions, or will this be online?
Sure. So two-part answer to that, Naman, it's a good question. I'm going to add that this is going to be a synchronous and an asynchronous learning. It's not even a question that you asked, but I'm adding above it. What is synchronous and what is asynchronous learning? Synchronous is live, asynchronous is self-paced. So 80% of our learning is going to be synchronous. You are going to be learning in a live and most importantly, in an interactive format. Gone are the days where you'll just hop on in a class and expect the speaker to just give you presentation for 90 minutes and leave. Absolutely not. GGI is for those who want to make themselves uncomfortable and learn at the intersection of uncomfortable and values. So you are going to be learning in live and interactive case format masterclass. At the same time, we just do not want you to be dependent upon us for your entirety of learning. There are going to be assignments. We talked about Trinity, we talked about Schrodinger, and there are going to be other components that you are going to be doing at your own pace. In fact, there is GGI Business Review that I highly urge people to study and read as well. To answer your question, it's a hybrid format in the sense that your entire learning and entire placement and the employment component is going to happen in the online format. Why? Because your speakers are going to join from New York, your speakers are going to join from Washington, your speakers are going to actually join from Seattle and San Francisco and London area as well. And so is going to be the community. We take a lot of pride in the fact that 10% of GGN join outside of India. Having said that, the hybrid component or the offline component comes from the community angle. We take a lot of pride in the fact that once every quarter GGNs across major metropolitan cities like London, like Boston, like New York or Delhi, or I could maybe say now Lucknow as well, given the advancement of Uttar Pradesh that's taking place, Mumbai and Bengaluru, you are going to come and meet GGIs from various walks of life. So it's certainly a hybrid format, because I certainly believe while there is power of internet, there is huge power in the format of the conversations that you and I are having, so that GGNs are able to have that as well. If you have a version of this answer, happy to hear that too.
Of course, I think advancement of Uttar Pradesh is debatable and will not take a political stance here. But yes, it makes a lot of sense to focus on quality, and that quality will happen only when you have global speakers and global cohort mates. Why restrict that feature, which is actually an asset in today's 21st century? There's absolutely no need to be in Gurgaon or Bangalore or anywhere for a period of 6-7 months, stuck in bad air or whatever. Learn on the go, network with people from across the globe, learn from folks from across the globe, and prepare for the world that is beyond the boundaries. And that is why this is largely the way that Shatakshi just conveyed. So can we say that since it's a new program, getting into it will be much easier in comparison to GJ MBA? So to those who have gotten rejected from GJ MBA program, can they also apply? And is getting into the policy tech an easier thing versus GJ MBA?
I don't think that's a right global statement to make at all. In fact, it really depends. So we need to understand that if we are almost comparing apples to oranges when we compare GJ MBA selection to GJ Tech Policy selection. When we are reading your application, we will, and our entire admission committee will want to understand, can this person take up a job in, let's say, meta tech policy? Can this person, if trained, if groomed well, can take up a job in, let's say, the government of India as a lateral advisor, so on and so forth. So while GJ MBA, when we are trying to read your application, when the admission committee is trying to evaluate, we are guessing or we are trying to understand, if groomed, can this person join BCG? If groomed, can this person join other consulting and other product management organizations, right? So here we will be trying to understand whether you can take up a tech policy role at, let's say, FANG, or whether you can take up a tech policy role in international affairs organization, leading non-profits or leading government. So I wouldn't compare, especially we do not even have data to compare. So it's, to my mind, an apples to oranges comparison right now.
Yeah, makes sense. I think if you think that your profile is much suited for a career in technology, policy tech, even though you have no background, but if you can justify that, apply for the policy tech or else apply for GGI MBA. And again, the rationale and the reasoning for selection is very simple, that there has to be serious candidates who are willing to work seriously to remarkable heights. And that will not happen if we were to accept everyone. I know from business standpoint it makes no sense, but that's how we have decided to go ahead with. And that's the reason why good organizations are collaborating with us.
With that, Naman, I'm almost at the wrap up of this pod and I want to ask you a few last good questions. When do we start and what is the pricing of this? We have been talking and questioning the world. Don't spend 10-20 lakhs, right? Doing a lot of random degrees because YouTubers are talking about it or they are well funded. So when do we start and what is the pricing for it?
Okay, first and foremost, few comments on what you rightfully said. The first thing is you should enjoy your youth. GJ is also one of the ways through which you can actually enjoy your youth. Learning is fun, indeed. And you get to meet some incredible people, learn phenomenal ideas, and get to imagine the kind of India that you want to create, the kind of world that you want to create, and along with the people who may perhaps support you along the journey. And of course, we have a global network, so that also comes to rescue. Second thing that I want to say is it's not about bashing YouTubers. That's wrong. The work that they are doing is remarkable. It's just that the model in which the entire business ecosystem is being run, the education ecosystem is being run, that is the problem. Just for the heck of getting those numbers and scale, that collaboration is not useful for people who are joining these programs with the high hope, with the high dreams of attaining certain outcomes. That is where I have a problem, and that is why we spoke very briefly about that entire scenario that we are clearly observing in this space. Of course, from the business standpoint, we will take a lot of loss because we will not hit the numbers, and that is totally fine. But in the longer run, I think these ethics will drive, and these ethics should drive. In terms of the selection, a quick addition, what is the reason why we're not accepting everyone? The reason is also, and I'll be honest here, at GGI, we collaborate with a lot many organizations also. We were on calls with ADB, we've been multiple calls with BCG. BCG has been very supportive of our work. And many of these people at BCG, at McKinsey, they value GGI because the kind of people who graduate from GGI. If we were to select everyone with any kind of motivation, any kind of rationale, it will be a disservice. And that is why numbers is, again, we don't care about. And therefore, we have this selection. It is unfortunate, but that's the case. And also, Shatakshi rightfully mentioned that there are certain skills that you need to be aware of before you become part of the community. These basic rationality, basic reasoning, basic mathematics. And that is why I think we also have to submit GMAT GRE score.
Optional, but yes.
It is optional.
Helps us understand the mathematical ability of the applicant.
And if you are from a terrible school, if you haven't reached your peak in the professional world, then I would urge you to submit GRE GMAT. Could be optional for someone who comes from a remarkable pedigree. Coming to the question around what's the fee, I have no idea about that. I have no clue about that. I wish it was 1 million. But I have no idea about that. So just check the website and go through it. But having said this, I want to ensure that people who do not have the finances, they have access to remarkable community and ecosystem, and therefore we are working very closely in ensuring that they get the scholarship. And I will personally make sure that there is some line of scholarship open for those who wish to be part of this community. I think it takes a lot of courage, honor, respect, and whatever to trust an institute. So if you go on to trust us, we'll of course ensure that trust is rewarded in every domain, in every sector. And the best part is that we take the ownership of things that we do here, and taking ownership is very hard. And I want to ensure that we are the public faces of whatever we reflect and represent. And therefore, this podcast is perhaps that reflection so that you can trust whatever we are working on.
Beautifully said, Naman. And on two things. One is around when do we start? So we are going to be opening our cohort for March 2024. That's the timeline that we are gunning for. So if you are interested in the initial cohort, you can apply. There are merits and demerits of becoming part of initial cohort. The initial cohort are the biggest risk takers, but risk takers should be rewarded the most. That means that the initial cohort is going to study at an extremely subsidized fees as well, right? Which is how a lot of educational programs actually in terms of the initial cohort. That's one. Second is that we are going to be 80% cheaper than a lot of other competitors in the market. Mind you, there is no, and this, I know that a lot of founders say that there is no competition in the market, but based on my good research, there is no competition in India. There is competition outside. For that competition, we are going to be 1% of the cost of what they are charging, or like Naman and I have been commonly saying, it's like a flight amount from Delhi to Boston. So that's on the second one. And Naman, you mentioned a very important thing that I would want to double click upon, which is around scholarship. We want to make sure that we back people who are being courageous and who want to actually fight for themselves. There were people who bet upon us in our early 20s, and we want to be the ones to want to bet upon other people who are in their early 20s and their mid 20s as well. That's one. Second is about value system. I have been really fortunate to question my value system and apply that to the organization beautifully that we have built GJ, and it's been almost 5 years that we have been running this successfully. So we are an organization which may not be well funded, and we take an immense pride in actually being that organization. We are also an organization where ethics is actually part of a curriculum, not for the heck of it, but also in the way we treat people, also in the way we kindly treat all of our students as well. In fact, kindness is a value proposition that is a strategic advantage at GGI. We do not make our people pit against each other. We are not in a rat race. We are very famously known within our community. Students take pride that they could just write a message on the WhatsApp group that I am not having a good day, or I want a referral for a job. Then 10 people would just rush to help them out, because those 10 people know that they are going to be needing that help one day. So you join GGI Tech Policy or you don't join, that's not important. What's important that, and it could be the wrap up of our podcast, would be that question your value system. What kind of values do you want to have in your life? What kind of values do you want your people around you to also have as well? Because they are going to be heavily influencing your character, your spirit, your integrity as well. So those are my last few words, Naman, as we wrap up this pod. More than happy to have you certain last words when we wrap up this pod around tech policy.
Yeah, one thing I want to say out loud is that investing is very important. Everyone says this, but investing is not just about investing in money markets or private markets or public markets. Investing is also about investing in relationships, investing in your community. You also invest your emotions. So if and when you take any decision, keep those holistic perspectives in mind. At the end of the day, of course, you all will get good jobs. You all will figure out a way and means to earn money. But at the end of the day, you have to bring forth changes that you yourself crave for. And at GGI, at any organization that we lead, our goal has been to ensure that these youngsters are trained holistically. And by holistically, I mean along the domains of ethics, along the domains of business, along the domains of public policy. Because a leader is never born in silos. They work and operate across silos. They bring forth many silos together. And that is what we want to bring forth. Therefore, it's a very all-encompassing program, and to whosoever is shortlisted, I wish them all the luck, all the best, and a phenomenal time ahead.
Beautiful. That's the wrap up of this pod. Thank you so much for your time and energy. If you were still watching us, we wish you all the best in your career, in your life, in your health, and most importantly, in your relationships as well. Ciao.